World Wonders by Barnaby Newbolt. Read by Nicolette Mackenzie. Chapter 1. A World of Wonders. Which is the tallest building in the world? Which is the oldest building? Which mountain is the highest? Perhaps you know the answers to these questions. Or perhaps you do not. But each of these questions has only one answer. And your answer is either right or wrong. But you can ask different questions. Which is the most beautiful building in the world? Which is the best waterfall? Which place in the world is the most wonderful? Each of us has different answers to these questions, and no one's answer is right or wrong. So, why do we ask the questions? Because the world is full of wonders, and we cannot see them all. But we want to learn about them, because perhaps one day we will see some of them. And because we like to know that they are still there. The Greek writer Herodotus asked himself these questions nearly 2,000 years ago. He described some of the wonders of the old world. Today, nearly all of his wonders have gone. Only one of his wonders is still here. Do you know what it is? The wonders in the book by Herodotus were all buildings or statues, like the Colossus at Rhodes. This tall statue, more than 30 meters high, stood at the entrance to the harbour on the Greek island of Rhodes. Another wonder for Herodotus, his oldest wonder, and the only wonder from the old world still here today, was the Great Pyramid in Egypt. When Herodotus was alive, the Great Pyramid was already an old building, 2,000 years old. And for nearly 4,000 years, the Great Pyramid was the tallest building in the world. But for us today, wonders are not all buildings. Some of them are natural, like forests, rivers, mountains, or waterfalls. These are the new wonders of the world. Of course, they are not new at all. Our forests, rivers, and mountains are older than any of our buildings. For a long time, for thousands of years, some people did not think that they were wonderful. But then we started to lose them. Now we understand that the world is always changing. Buildings fall down, rivers lose their water, and forests burn. Because of this, it is important for us to learn about the wonders of the world. If we are not careful, we will lose them. Only one of the old wonders is still here today, after more than 2,000 years. In the next 11 chapters, you can read about some natural wonders and some wonders that were made by people. Are they the greatest wonders in the world today? What do you think? Chapter 2. Petra, City of Pink Stone. You always come to Petra from the east, and you always come on foot, or perhaps on a camel. The road to Petra is too narrow for a car. For the last 2 kilometers, you travel through a mountain, and the road is only 5 meters across. But the walls on both sides of the road are hundreds of meters high. This is the entrance to Petra, and it is called the Siq. When you visit Petra, you walk through the Siq. And when you come to the end of the Siq, you see the most beautiful building in the world. It is called the Khazna, the treasury. It is tall and it is made of pink stone. But you can only see the front of the Khazna. The rest of the building is inside the mountain. People made the building 2,000 years ago, but they did not build it. They cut it into the mountain. About 2,500 years ago, a group of Arab people called the Nabateans moved to South Jordan. They made their capital city at Petra, in the mountains. It was a good place for a city. First, it was a good place for a market. Petra was on the old road between Egypt and Arabia to the south, and Syria, Greece, and Rome to the north. Travellers came along this road with things to sell, like gold and spices. Second, it was a good place to defend. The mountains around Petra were stronger than any walls. And third, there was water. The Nabateans were very good builders. They made dams to hold the water, and long canals to move it around the city. 2,000 years ago, Petra was a rich and important city, with strong, beautiful buildings, and thousands of people living there. Now, no one lives there, and the city has gone. What happened? The Nabateans began to build Petra in about 400 BC, but then, in the year AD 363, there was a terrible earthquake, which destroyed much of the city. 200 years after that, in AD 551, there was another bad earthquake. People moved away from Petra, and they stopped using the road for business. They began to use ships, not camels, to carry their spices and gold. And the world forgot about Petra for more than 1,000 years. But Petra is still there. The earthquakes destroyed the buildings on the land, but they did not destroy the buildings in the mountains. Many of these beautiful buildings are tombs, places for dead bodies. They are empty now, but you can still visit more than 500 of them. At the far end of Petra is a tomb called the Monastery, which is 50 meters high. But it is the beautiful pink stone front of the treasury that is in everybody's photos of Petra. At the very top of the treasury is a stone urn, like a large stone cup. For hundreds of years, people thought that there was treasure in the urn. They shot their guns at it, trying to get the treasure inside it. But of course, there is no treasure in the treasury or in the other tombs. The treasure of Petra is the city itself, the city of pink stone. Chapter 3. The Serengeti Migration. It is a wonderful thing to see. Every year, 1.5 million wildebeest leave their home in South Serengeti and travel north. For the next 8 months, they will be away from home, always moving, travelling in a great circle. As many as 500,000 other animals, like zebras and gazelles, travel with them. So, every year, 2 million animals move together across the flat land of East Africa. Why do they do it? It is dangerous. Every year, 250,000 of the wildebeest die on the journey. But they have to do it. They are migrating, moving from place to place to find food and water. And this is the longest and largest migration in the world, the Serengeti migration. For these animals, home is in the south, in Tanzania. From December to April, they live in South Serengeti and Ngorongoro. After the short rains, 1 or 2 weeks of rain in November and December, there is lots of grass, and the animals eat well. Soon, the baby animals will be born. Young zebra are born in January, and young wildebeest are born in February. All the young wildebeest, about 400,000 every year, are born during the same 3 weeks. Only a few minutes after they are born, they are on their feet and ready to run. And they need to run immediately. Hundreds of animals are waiting for them. Big cats like lions and leopards, and hyenas too. At this time of year, there is lots of food for everyone. In April, it is time to move. It is getting hot in the south, and there is not much grass or water. The long rains are beginning in the west. They usually bring a lot of water in April and May. The animals can hear the storms, and they can smell the rain. They have eaten well for months, and they are strong. The grass is growing in the west. They know that it is time to leave. In June, most of the animals are in the center or west of the Serengeti. The long rains usually end in May, and now it is getting dry. The best water is in the north, so the animals need to move again. Now they have to cross their first big river, the Grumeti River. Often the water is not very deep, and the animals can walk across the river. They cross quickly, because they are in danger from crocodiles. They move north to Ikorongo, and there they stop and wait. This is the most dangerous place of all. The animals need to get to the Masai Mara in Kenya. There is grass and lots of water there in August and September. But first, they need to cross the Mara River, which is a big, deep river. The large Nile crocodiles know that they are coming, and they are waiting for them. Day after day, the crocodiles wait in the water, and the wildebeest and other animals wait on the south side of the river. Soon there are many thousands of animals, and then, suddenly, they run into the water and begin to swim. Animals crash into each other, and many are hurt. The crocodiles find food easily. They can live for a long time without food, but in these hot days of summer, they have the best meals of the year. Some animals die in the river, but most of them get across. During the last weeks of summer, there is grass and water here in the north. They stay until October or November, when the storm clouds arrive in the south. The short rains are ready to begin. The animals turn south, and they travel quickly. They want to be home in South Serengeti again, because new grass is growing there. They will stay there until April, when the great Serengeti migration begins again. Chapter 4. Angkor Wat. If you look at the center of the Cambodian flag, you will see a picture of a building. It is the most famous building in Cambodia, and one of the most beautiful buildings in the world. It is called Angkor Wat. The story of the city of Angkor is like the story of many old cities. A long time ago, Angkor was one of the largest cities in the world, and many people lived there. There were a lot of houses, which were made of wood, and many temples made of stone. But the world changed, and people moved away. The houses fell down, but the temples did not fall down because they were made of stone. But the forest around the city grew quickly. Trees grew up over the temples and hid them. Only one temple, Angkor Wat, could defend itself against the forest. Angkor Wat had canals full of water around it, on all four sides, and the forest could not cross the canals. The forest destroyed many of the temples in Angkor, but it did not destroy Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat was for some time the temple and capital city of one of the old Khmer kings. From AD 802 to 1431, they were kings of the country which was later called Cambodia. We know very little about that time because there are no old Khmer books about it. The only person who described Khmer life was a Chinese traveller, Zhu Daguan, who visited Angkor in AD 1296. He wrote about the different temples and about the Khmer people and life in Angkor. But we still have the temples. We have learned a lot from them because they are full of pictures. The Khmer kings thought that they were gods, not men like other people. And because they were gods, they thought that they could never die. So the kings built large temples with pictures of their gods and of themselves. The first kings built their temples for the Hindu god Shiva. In about AD 1150, Angkor Wat was built by King Suryavarman II for another Hindu god, Vishnu. And the people who built Angkor Wat cut pictures into the stone walls of the temple. There are pictures from Hindu stories, from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and there are pictures of King Suryavarman and of his life in Angkor. And there are also pictures from Buddhist stories. After the death of King Suryavarman II, a later king changed Angkor Wat into a Buddhist temple. But, like all the temples in Angkor, it was built as a Hindu mountain temple. Mountain temples were built to look like Mount Meru, the home of the Hindu gods. The 5 towers of Angkor Wat are the 5 mountain tops of Mount Meru. The walls of the temple are the smaller mountains around Mount Meru. The canals around the walls are the seas around the mountains. And, like a real mountain, it is hard to climb to the top of the temple at Angkor Wat. There is a lot to see in Angkor. Angkor Wat is the most famous of the temples. But the favorite temple for many people is a few kilometers away at Ta Prohm. The trees that grew up over the temple at Ta Prohm are still there, just like they were hundreds of years ago. The kings of Angkor were rich and strong, but they have all died, and their temples will all fall down. In the end, nothing is as strong as the forest that grows around Angkor. Chapter 5. The Iguazu Falls. The south of Brazil meets the north of Argentina at the Iguazu River, called Iguaçu in Brazil. At this meeting place, the land in the north is higher than the land in the south. When the river comes to the end of the higher land, it falls off, like water that falls off the side of a table. But this table is 2.7 kilometers long, and the water falls 82 meters down its side. These waterfalls are called the Iguazu Falls. They are not the highest waterfalls in the world, but they are some of the biggest. At dry times of the year, about 500 cubic meters of water comes down the waterfalls every second. But at wet times, from November to March, there is much more water. About 6,000 cubic meters of water every second. The Iguazu Falls are not special just because they are big. They are special because they are wonderful to see. They are not one fall of water. There are 275 different falls along 2.7 kilometers of the river. The largest and most famous of the falls is called the Devil's Throat. The water comes into the Devil's Throat from 3 sides. From the top, it looks like the letter U. The best place to see it is from the Brazilian side of the river. People have built a walkway, a wooden road above the river, at the mouth of the U, so you can walk near to the middle of the falls. It is often wet on this walkway, and not just from the rain. The falling water makes a wet cloud over the Devil's Throat for much of the year. Visitors can borrow raincoats from the visitor centre. Most of the falls are on the Argentinian side of the river. There are long walkways on this side to many places along the waterfalls. You can take a boat to the island in the middle of the river, San Martin Island, and look up at the falls. Or you can fly over the waterfalls and look down on them. But it is possible to get away from the noise of the falls. On both sides of the river, there are parks with wonderful flowers, trees, and rare animals, like the jaguar. There are more than 350 different kinds of bird, too. And when the moon is full, there are special visits to see the waterfalls by moonlight. But this beautiful, special place is in danger. The parks are in danger because people want to cut down the trees to build roads, houses, and hotels. The waterfalls are in danger too because people want to build dams using the river to make electricity. The Itaipu Dam, one of the largest in the world, is below the waterfalls on the Parana River. But there are 5 dams above the waterfalls. The nearest, the Governor Jose Richa Dam, is only 20 kilometers away, and there are soon going to be more. And if we destroy the parks and waterfalls, there will not be a home for the birds and animals of the forest. Chapter 6. Chichen Itza. There are good days to visit places, and there are bad days. Usually, this is because of the weather. But for visitors to Chichen Itza, there are 2 days in the year that are the best days to visit. And this is not because of the weather. It is because of the earth and the sun. The city of Chichen Itza was built by the Maya people of Yucatan in Mexico over 1,000 years ago. The Maya were very interested in numbers and in astronomy, learning about the stars. Their buildings were beautiful and very clever too. In Chichen Itza, there is a temple called the Pyramid of Kukulkan. On 2 special days every year, thousands of people come to Chichen Itza. While they watch, a large snake climbs down the pyramid from the top to the bottom. Of course, it is not a real snake. It is a snake made of sunlight and shadows. It works like this. At about 3 in the afternoon, some of the light of the sun comes onto the steps on the north face of the pyramid. This light makes triangles on the west side of the steps, and it looks like the body of a snake that is moving. At the same time, the sun lights the stone head of the snake at the bottom of the steps. The snake god, Kukulkan, is coming down from his temple. This only happens twice a year, on the days of the equinox. This is when the nights are as long as the days, around March the 21st and September the 22nd. It is not easy to make a building like this today, but the Maya did it, without computers or other help, hundreds of years ago. The pyramid of Kukulkan also counts the days of the year. The pyramid has 4 faces, and there are 91 steps on each face. At the top, there is 1 more step in front of the temple. This makes 365 steps, the number of days in a year. The Itzas were a group of Maya people, and the name Chichen Itza means at the mouth of the well of the Itzas. There are very few rivers in Yucatan, but there are natural wells, deep holes in the ground with water at the bottom. Just north of the pyramid of Kukulkan is the sacred well. This is a very big well. It is 60 meters across, and it is 27 meters from the top of the well down to the green water. Now the water is still. But this was not always a quiet place. The Maya sacrificed people here. They killed them to please their gods. To do this, they threw men, women, and children into the well, and they died there. The Maya liked to sacrifice people, and they liked sport too. They played something like football in the great ball court at Chichen Itza. This is 166 meters long and 68 meters across, with long walls on each side that are 12 meters high. At the top of each wall, in the middle, is a stone ring with a hole in it. We think that the players had to hit the ball through the hole, but they could not use their hands or feet. It was important to win. When they finished playing, the winners sacrificed one of the losing players. Chapter 7. The Grand Canyon. When you visit a mountain, you arrive at the bottom and you look up at the mountain. But when you visit a canyon, you can often arrive at the top and look down into the earth. And when you look down into the Grand Canyon, you look down a long way. At the bottom, which in most places is about 1.2 kilometers below you, you see the Colorado River. But when you look at the tall, red sides of the canyon,